with Steve. Thanks for joining us if you're joining us live, or if you're joining us after the fact. Thanks much. Uh, Kind of a fun discussion today around do more with less, right? Microsoft's always had this funny relationship with the premise that some of what they do best is software at scale, right? It's sort of this notion of in the automobile world, again thinking about our headquarters in the great state of Michigan. Would you rather be GM, or would you rather be Porsche? Would you rather be Ferrari, or would you rather be, a Ford? Meaning, is it the really expensive, really niche kind of software, or is it the software more with mass appeal? And it's kind of funny in that Microsoft kind of pulls off both, right? There's enterprise functionality that goes down to the smallest of customers via things like business premium licensing. But then there's also this aspect of wide approachability, or the ability to take what used to be a niche feature or an expensive add-on and bring it into the core of what they do. And so it's kind of interesting for me to see Microsoft sort of revisiting that message of do more with less. That hey, there's cost savings, there's financial responsibility with their solutions, but at the same time, they're bringing new solutions to bear that might have been either more expensive or third party or all those kinds of things into the mix. And so, we'll talk a little bit about sort of why this message, why now specifically around Teams Phone. And I'll talk a little bit about some of how Teams Phone supports that message. If you've been with us before, one of the things that I've talked about a number of times in a number of different contexts is sometimes we're not as special as we think we are when it comes to a business sense. That the features we need, the business outcomes we're looking for, the business rules and imperatives within our own organizations look a lot like those in other organizations, right? And because of that, providers like Microsoft and others, do a pretty good job of that 80-20 rule, 90-10, whatever it is, and really getting the core functionality into their core products. And I think phone is kind of a new space for that. And it's kind of fun to talk about it because I think the world of voice for the last 100 years has been dominated by voice specific hardware, voice specific software, voice specific services and solution providers. And so we're going to talk today sort of in the context of that do more with less message. And you'll see it abbreviated DMWL, right? So why now? Why phone? Why now? There's some, economic turmoil, from layoffs to the cost of capital, some things that are dramatically changing. Moving from capex to opex kind of spend might even be more and more important. Frankly, it might be stuff that you're already licensed for, or that you're already using, right up to the edge. Some of my favorite customers are ones that are using Teams and using it internally in a way that we can help them just flip a couple of switches and use it externally, right? For voice, for video, for meetings, for dial-in, for call management, and all of those kinds of things. There's a lot of momentum around Teams right now. This week is Enterprise Connect, an event down in Florida. And Microsoft chose this event to make some Teams announcements, including a complete from the ground up rewriting of the Teams client, make it faster, make it more capable. They sort of fessed up that there have been some feature requests that have been sort of spinning for literally years at this point. I know one that's particularly top of mind for me is switching between tenants. As a partner, we've got our own tenant for Teams. We deal with a lot of customers who have tenants that we want to work in. Maybe we're guests in them, as well as Microsoft and other partners where we want to do sharing via Teams. And the ability of the end user to sort of context switch in Teams was, let's say, kludgy, or sort of big giant toggle switch based versus a little bit more nuance, right? You're either here or you're there. They've coded some things in now based on this rewrite that they couldn't do before. And so I can be in one tenant, for example, and receive notifications from another tenant right within the client. And so because of that, there's going to be even more Teams momentum building. I think devices have caught up. I think there's some functionality catch up that's happened around like SIP and analog devices on the way. And it's just, it's the right time for this kind of message into the market, right? The savings is there with M365. You're collapsing into a single solution. I know I've said before that for a lot of our customers, we fund their migration and adoption efforts, their licensing costs by cost savings in other parts of the business. And so all of that sort of contributes to the message of why now. There's tremendous growth in this space. It's always been kind of a funny little secret that even before people were doing VoIP, on their own premises, all the carriers, were packet switched instead of circuit switched. Gone were the days of operators and cords and switching circuits. So packet switching has just gone completely to the edge now, and because of that, any IP network is a phone network, and now Microsoft has brought that phone capability in a super meaningful way, in a cloud-based way, all the way to each and every end user that's out there. It's got great momentum, lots of leadership functionality, lots of adoption. The reason I like the adoption piece as a talking point, or frankly a selling point when I talk to customers, is that, again, it reinforces this message, and that you're not sort of blazing a trail anymore. I mean, I think 12, 18, for sure 24 months ago, you were a little bit more on the edge if you were doing, your phone infrastructure, your voice infrastructure completely collapsed within Teams. I think that's really different right now. And so all of the numbers are really showing that that this consolidation, hey, let's use the tool that's on everybody's desktop that they're using to communicate and collaborate already for voice is really happening. So what does that story look like, specific to the Teams phone space, right? One of the things that I did that I thought would be helpful is I took some content, and I'll speak to this content. And some of it was directed at us as partners. One of the things that I do, maybe to a fault at times, is I'm pretty transparent with customers to give them, not just the customer message, but the partner message as well, right? I think it helps inform decisions that they make to see what's in it for us, how we think about this business, how we want to, like in the case of Apex, have business growth, have really, really satisfied customers, be profitable, have a great relationship with Microsoft. And, sometimes that messaging and the investment that Microsoft is making, translates into customer value. The ROI message, the cost of ownership, the SLAs, the product gaps that have been closed out. And we'll talk to all of these in a little bit more detail. This was a message that came to us as partners to say, hey, it's time to go talk to your customers about this solution. I just turned that into, well, let's talk directly with the customers about this reasoning, because I think it shows how this makes sense across the ecosystem. One of the things that, I'm sure, CIOs and executives and stakeholders have learned over time is that, alignment in the supply chain, the value chain is absolutely key. If you've got, a couple pieces that are disjointed or have counter incentives in place, that can be problematic. Everybody's marching in one direction. You got one guy marching the other direction. That can be hard. And so I just wanted to reiterate the message that we're receiving, and that the reason we're investing is that this makes a lot of sense for our business because of what it can do for our customers. There's even a tool in this space. I'd love to help customers utilize it, but I thought I would even sort of let you know directly that it's out there. Is a value calculator. Really only need your user count, but you and Apex working together can use this to paint a real easy picture on return on investment, not just cost savings, but revenue generation. One of the things that I think is critically important in customer conversations is not just to focus on one or the other, right? Hard costs or soft costs. Either approach in isolation isn't as effective as when you put them together. If it's all about cost savings, well, at some point, if costs go to zero, I guess we're done. And if it's all about revenue enhancement or saved support hours on all those soft costs, it feels a little squishy. I promise you this is going to work out, right? And so when we can combine both, it's pretty darn powerful. And so as partners, we have a tool. We have this value calculator that we can bring to bear even early on in our conversations. I know our sales leadership here at Apex has worked with our account executives and done training and making sure that they know the ins and outs of tools like this to be able to show the value proposition that exists within Teams Phone. And so know that this is a tool out there that we can use with you to really drive that value story, especially if you have to go somewhere else. We work with a lot of nonprofits. We work with a lot of organizations that do need-based budgeting and things like that, and so we have to help them generate the case, and so this is something we do every day and something we love doing in partnership with our customers. It really makes things simpler for customers, even with the change that you're introducing, right? Yeah, you're changing up maybe what's on their desk, or how the push buttons work, or something around the actual sort of execution of a phone call. But in the end, what you're doing is you're making things simpler, right? It's a single app. It's an app they're comfortable with. Straightforward licensing, straightforward dialing plans, the ability to give them mobility without VPNs or custom clients, or change in nature based on location and so forth. Throughout my whole career, people have always sort of tagged me with the ability to sort of, there's story 7 and there's story 14, and so I'm not sure which number it is, but I'll again lean on the fact that I don't give out my cell phone number anymore in the business context. Why? Because my Teams number is just as good. Frankly, it's better, right? It'll ring my desktop. It'll ring my mobile phone. It'll ring me in Southfield. It'll ring me here in Minneapolis. It is a better number to get a hold of me, right? And so that simplicity is something that Teams Phone is really bringing to bear. And then we've got these options around lighting up dial tone. We spend most of our time talking about 1 and 2 because of our customer base, because of the simplicity and the value. We spend most of our time in those first couple of columns, right? For a lot of customers, especially because, the USA, North America was early with Microsoft calling plans. that is an easy way to get dial tone into people's environments. The licensing, the admin is all within Teams, super, super simple and straightforward. When it comes to Operator Connect, we in particular have a great partnership with 8x8. And so we can bring to bear sort of that next step. Hey, do you need some more advanced calling? Do you need, a different provider for voice than for other pieces because of business requirements or regulation? Is international super important? Where are you at with analog devices? Where are you at with contact center? That drives a lot of the conversation in that Operator Connect bucket. We don't particularly transparently do a ton of work in those last two, right? Direct routing is really about you've invested a lot in on-prem infrastructure and you've got very, very specialized needs. We can help in that space, but there's a lot of very specific knowledge and experience that comes with that. The phone mobile piece, this is really sort of starting with cell phone, moving the other direction. It's getting more traction now and something we've worked with a couple of customers around. But to me, it's more the exception versus the rule. And so just wanted to highlight the ability to really pivot the solution into the space that is the best fit. Voice has always felt different when it comes to reliability. Again, I'm old enough to have the experience of, you pick up a handset in your home or in the office and it makes the dial tone noise, right? I know that the world feels different if I pick up a phone and there's no dial tone. That would feel really weird to me. AT&T and its progeny over the last 125 years have done a great job of as close to 100% uptime as probably humanly possible by limiting capability, by being super careful, by potentially being a monopoly for many, many years. And so voice availability, voice reliability just feels different. And, Microsoft has done a great job of really striving for that sort of voice expected availability in this space, right? 8x8 as well, they have a great story in this space. And so, know that when we come to you, we come with SLAs that support that voice expectation. And, for example, backed by financial metrics, right? Here's the equation. And guess what? If these things are down based on, this formula and this scale, this is what, that financial piece looks like. If folks aren't meeting their service level accountabilities or their goals, it's real, and because of that, you should feel very, very protected. And I think I'm speaking to me and sort of my generation versus others who see the availability of chat and collab and video, in a different way versus voice, right? I have teenage children. The voice services on their phone appear to be some of the least important services to them. They would be far more troubled by, prize picks being down versus, dial tone. So while that's changing over time, it's certainly good to know that those pieces are there. We talked about the feature gap and at launch 3-4 years ago at this point, 5 years ago at this point, and initial adoption, there were some gaps there. For most of us, this is just an example of a point in time of, hey, what's in, what's coming, some of the what's coming is already in there and new things have moved into the roadmap. But for most of us, branch survivability, call queues, IVRs, using SIP phones because of the SIP gateway, caller ID, like the functions we need from voice, they're there, right? That's not to say that they're there for every single customer. I can in no way make that claim. But for most of us, we're really talking about a feature complete solution, or one that really can map to our business. And so I always sort of issue that in a customer discussion as a sort of a challenge to be like, I'm happy to, take feature requirements and stuff like that, but I want them to be from the business, right? I don't want them to be from the existing PBX, because if the PBX can do feature XYZ, but nobody's using it, or it doesn't really matter to the business outcomes, then that's a feature game. That's leg wrestling I don't want to do. And so let's make sure that absolutely we can meet the business needs and the business outcomes you're looking for, but that they're aligned to the business and not just simply aligned to the existing infrastructure. We also have this ability to help you with persona mapping. I think this is one of the great ways, to think about these transitions, to put people, whether it's the quick at a glance or the actual adoption guides, into buckets of what do they really need out of the voice solution, right? Are they, executive assistants or administrative staff? Are they call center staff? Are they road warriors? Are they execs? Are they customer facing? Are they in IT? And because of these personas, we have a great way to sort of facilitate that conversation, facilitate that mapping of the solution into the business. For example, around the executive space, let's talk about how they're going to use it. Delegation, focus time, transferring calls, probably a wide range of devices, and that always high level experience, right? One of the pitches for Apex in this space is our hardware partnerships, whether it's Logi or folks like Jabra or Poly, bringing the right devices as part of this phone solution as well. And so as we think about these personas, as we think about mapping them into the business, this is a great way to make sure we're headed for the outcomes you're looking for. And so lots of collateral and assets, lots of learning and adoption material that we can provide to the business, and facilitate, um, you know, training, adoption, sort of lighthouse users and champions groups, and the ability to, have people in your environment that are sort of the beacons of adoption, right? One of the things that I've always loved to do is have these groups within customers. One of the ones that's always biggest to me is the executive assistants, right? They're sort of the ones that rule the world. If you actually peel back the onion in a lot of businesses, right? They're gateways to calendars. They're disseminators of information. They are runners of projects. And because of that, when you talk about collaboration, when you talk about the solutions in that space, having their buy-in is absolutely critical, right? They kind of run the show behind the curtain. And so this is an example of some of the collateral, some of the adoption material we can help put in place for you when it comes time to move forward with a solution like Teams Phone. And then in the workspaces, if you think about it from that lens, not persona based, but sort of this new world of work, this hybrid world, saying, how do we attack these spaces, right? Is it, phones that are shared? How so, right? Do we need people signing in? Do we need them simply connecting it to a laptop people are bringing into work? And so there's great Teams Phone solutions in those spaces. And then here at Apex, we love working with customers around Teams Rooms, saying, hey, what are the right solutions for those collaborative spaces, right? Do we need whiteboards? Do we need audio? What about video? What about displays, projectors, on wall, on furniture? All of those pieces really fall into our expertise as well. I've done a couple of sessions, and I'm sure I'll do more in the future around Teams rooms. They are absolutely critical to the value we bring to customer, and this is a great example of how you want to think about all of this along a continuum of those experiences, right? We talked about personas, and now we're talking about those different physical spaces. Sometimes I think folks think that there's a blocker with Teams Phone when you have a voice need in a place where someone doesn't sit, right? Where it's not a user-based endpoint. But I just wanted to leave this in to highlight that there's also that place-based endpoint that has the functionality and the capability most of us are looking for in those collaborative spaces. And so that was just a quick intro to doing more with less when it comes to Teams Phone. Here at Apex, we're here to support your journey in this space. Fridays with Steve is always a good balance, I hope, of information that you can use and use as a takeaway independently of working with us and partnering with us. At the same time, we're here to help. We've done hundreds of these solution deployments. We've worked with hundreds of customers. We've been recently named both as a great place to work, which is good news for my team, as well as one of those businesses that customers look to as a leader in these different spaces, whether it's CRN or Fortune and Inc. and those kinds of lists that we've made over time. And then the last call out is just, many of us get paid on customer satisfaction. It was critical to our founding, and it's critical to who we are today. So as always, some next steps. Hope the information can help you with your own collaboration journey. But like I said, we're also here to help, right? So contact your account executive if you're already an Apex customer, already working with us. We're ready to help. You can always reach out to me, sthompson@apexdigital.com, or simply engage with us via social, via our website. We've got some great assets and resources available. And we're always looking to help more customers as we grow and scale our business as well. So a little bit about Teams Phone. Hope you found it helpful. And we'll catch you next time on Fridays with Steve.